Hi and welcome back to the next video. This is video 15 and here we are mainly handling the Angular, and here we have like a new Chatroom component. We want to be able to like add a new message, and we want to get all the messages. So specific, we create like a Chatroom component, we create also a message component, and we add like events to our Angular front-end chat service, like adding a message to a specific chat room, and also get all the messages when we join a chat room. So the latest ones, I think the latest 10 messages. And yeah, we also refactor like define messages by room stuff in our Nest.js backend, so from our gateway out, and so that we then get like all the latest messages for a specific room. And also we have to make sure, but this is something for like the next videos, to add more design, for example, that we make that we display our own messages different than messages from other users. So for example, like in WhatsApp, you know it, your messages are displayed on the right side and the messages from the other users are displayed on the left. And that we also make some changes how we display like the messages, because now we are just like displaying the latest ones. Then we have here our video structure, which is as always, first we have a look at the video outcome, then we read the user story for this, and then we implement the story and close it. So let's quickly go through like the outcome of this video. So like before, we can now log in, we can add our password, and now we have our rooms here. We have now set like the width and the height of this component. We have also made our room scrollable, and we can paginate now correctly through it. So we added it here a bit. Now you can see we have no chat room selected at the moment. We can select chat room, then we have like here the name of the chat room, we have the date when it was last updated, the description, and all the names of the users that are in it currently. We have something for the messages and to add a new message to this room. Here you can already see we have a room that has also a description and has some messages. And now when we add like outcome of this video to this, then this gets added, but we have to at the moment reload it and then open the room, and then we have it at the top. And now this is what we will do in this video. And then in one of the next videos, we will like turn this around. We will also make it different when I'm the user that created the message, like in WhatsApp, when we display it on the right, and if someone else wrote it, when we display it on the left. And yeah, also we want to emit this immediately so that we don't have to do like an F5. Hi, let's first have a look at our story for this video. Here we are on video 15, and here we will do mainly Angular and a little bit Nest.js stuff. So the Nest.js can be in brackets. So basically we want to like add a message to a chat room, and we also want to get messages for our chat room that we are currently in this video here in our front end. So the story is simple. As a user, I want to be able to open my chat room and to add like a message to it. So we want to send it to the backend. And I also want to get displayed like the latest messages from the users when I join the room. And I have to say like the final design, like displaying their own message from myself, like this different will be done in another video, I think. And also right now we will just make the loading of the messages when you enter the room the first time. And so the directly message emitting when someone else in the room adds a message while you're in this room and you see it directly, and will also be done like in one of the next videos. So here we will have some acceptance criteria. We want to have like a new component chat room, a new component message. Here we will handle like all the stuff that's going on in the chat room. Here we will only display like the message. We want to make like our rooms in our dashboard scrollable and also like the messages so that you can scroll over them. We want to make some small design improvements, and we also want to modify our API message service in our backend that gets accessed from the messages event in our gateway. So because there we want to filter by the room ID, and we also want to add like the user to our message so that we can in one of the next videos in the front end check if the user that was writing this message is myself, so that then we can display it differently. So like in WhatsApp, the messages from the other users are displayed on the left and my own messages are displayed on the right. So this is how we could make this stuff later. So the first thing that we want to do is we want to change our message service. At the moment we have this here, which is here like a little bit wrong. So we want here to make a query. And for this we want to use our message repository. and we have to use like the query builder, and we want to create it for our message. Then we want to make like a left join with the rooms, or with the room that this message belongs. So we can say message.room, and then we can say alias is room, and then we can say where our room.id is our room ID, and then we can say simply here room ID is our room.id. Then we can specify left join and select for our users. So here we want to get from our message the user that wrote the message, and so we can make an alias here for the user, and then we can also make an order by, and we can say from the message.created at timestamp that we have in our database, and we want to sort ascending so that we have the latest message at the bottom displayed, and then we can simply return our paginate function from the NestJS stuff, and then we can say query with the pagination option so that we can paginate through this. Then we should get like returned the good stuff. So here this will just take some time till it is recognized. So now it should everything be okay. So now we can switch to our front end. And here we now first needs to add like our interface so that we can work with this more easily. So here we can copy a bit of our interface from our backend. So let's just make copy and paste, and now go to our front end and go to our model folder, and then we can just say message.interface.ts and can make a little bit copy and paste. And then we have here our ID, we have the text, we have the user, we have the room, and these here are like optional, and also the user, because when we will create it, when the user is added automatically in the backend from the JWT, and the created at and update at timestamps will also be created in the backend, so that we don't need them here. So now we can use or work with this, and now we can start to modify a bit of our chat service. So this will be in our chat service here, and here we have to check it against our gateway from nest.js. So we have here our gateway, and now we want to have like a join and a leave room event. You see it here, we have a join room and we have a leave room. So we need to add this here. So we can say we have one join room, and here we want to have like the room. And we can simply say this.socket.emit, and then we name it like join room, the event name that we have in our backend. And we also send the room. So because, as you remember here, when we make a join room, then we search by this room for the messages for this room, for the 10 latest messages, so that we then can display them. And then we also have like the leave room. So we can say leave room. We also have here like the room and the room ID, so that we can then use this .socket.emit, and then we can simply say leave room, and then we give him the room that we are leaving as a user. So here you see, if we leave the room, then we delete our connection from our joint room service by our socket ID, and then we left like the room. We also want to send a message, and of course here we need our message from our message interface. And then we simply say this.socket.emit, and this is like our add message event, and we have here our message, and you can see it here, the add message. We want to have the message when we save or we create this message, we add, we then get our room and our joint users, and then later we will also emit like the new message to all the users that are in this room currently online. And we also want to get all the messages for our room. So we can modify this here. So we can rename this to get messages. And this here is an observable. And here we need like the message. Actually, I think we need the message paginate stuff. So if you have a look here at the rooms, we also have here our paginate interface. So where we have the items and the metadata. So this is like the page size and so on. So that we need this also. So we can go to our message and we can say export message paginate interface. And then we have our items, which is our message interface. And we have our metadata, which is simply meta, what we created. So then we can use this in our chat service because we want to here return like a message paginate interface. And then this goes against messages. And we return this from socket. And we can also say here, this is like a message paginate interface. And then we can access this later in our components. So let's go to our dashboard component. Let's close our API folder here because I think now we are just in the front end stuff. So we have here our components, our dashboard component. And now we want to modify this like a bit. So we have here our chat rooms. And then we can say we want to make here like another div where we have our heading and our button. And we can also make this like an h2 tag. And then we have our button where we can go to create new room. And then we can also switch this span here to a div. And we can move our ngIf into this. And then we can simply remove this span element. And here we have to add like a space. And then we can see we have here our rooms are sync, and else we display our new rooms here. So like a little template. And we can also give him here the class rooms. And we can add this class here to our container. There we have then our met card. We can make our met card like position fixed. And with a margin of 20 pixels around, and we can also remove it here from our container. So this is like just full size. So if we make it, can return this. And then in our met card we have our rooms, where we can say, for example, they do have a height of 500 pixels. We have to later check if this is good or not. We can make it like a width of 250 pixels. And when we say overflow auto, we enable it that it's scrollable. And here, so when we have it like scrollable, let's have a quick look at it, how it looks at the moment. So you can see we have here our dummy rooms, and now we are here like full size, and we can scroll here inside our containers. And then also what I realize is our met paginator here, when we have two more items, when we switch our items per page to 2, But this is nothing we want, because then we can also have like here, we are only displaying 2 on every page till we change this. So here, basically our page size should be the items per page from our metadata, and then this should be displayed like correct. And then we can reformat this here a bit. And this is like our chat, also all our rooms that we have here on the left. And then we can go into our chat room, what we want to do now. So we can first maybe give this like a class and say this is like our chat room class. And then we add the logic there. Yeah, so then we can say here we have here our chat room class. And we can give this like a margin left of maybe 40 pixels. And we can make the width to 600 pixels. And let's see how this looks. And we reload everything. So this should be like a good size now, I think. And now we can like maybe also modify here like this scroll bar. So for this, we can just use like WebKit. The scroll bar, the track. And then we can use a WebKit box minus shadow. And then we can say here like light gray. Is it taking color? And we can use like the border radius, and this can be, for example, 10 pixels, so that we don't like have like so edgy colors, corners. Maybe use this. And then we have also the WebKit scroll bar. And maybe we can also use here. Did we use here? Alice blue. Let's see how this looks. And we can also set our WebKit scroll bar thumb to border radius 10 pixels. We have a WebKit. Yeah, we can just copy and paste this from here. And we have a background color of this. Well, normally this should work. So what it's saying here? Box minus shadow. Can we just copy and paste? Seems like it. Let's see if we have an error. And let's Google it, Firefox modify scroll bar. So let's try if this works. Yeah, so basically we can just set the scroll bar color and width for Firefox here, and this here should work for like Chrome and so on. So then we have like both options done. So we can just say here scroll bar color and scroll bar width for Firefox, and here we have this, and we always have like a height of 500 pixels and a width of 250, and we have set it overflow epsilon to scroll. So you can see now we have here our modified scroll bar. That looks a bit nicer as the standard thing. And you can see it now here. Now the pagination is also complete or correct. And now we can go on. And now we want to display like our chat room here. So here at the moment we have displayed our room. So now we want to modify this a bit. So for this we can open like a new terminal, and then we can create like another component. So we can say ng generate component. And then we want to go into our private module, into our components folder. And then we want to name our component Chatroom component. And then this should automatically, so we first have to go into our Frontend folder. And then this should automatically be added to our private module and created inside here. So now you see we have our Chatroom component. And then we first, maybe can add some stuff here. So in our Chatroom component, we want to have like an Angular input so that we have something to work with. So this should be our chat room. And then we want to have our room interface. And this input here is imported from Angular core so that we can use this. Then we also want to have like or to get like the latest messages from our chat gateway. So this is like an observable with our message paginate interface. And then we can just call our chat service. So we need to add it to our constructor, and we can say private chat service. And here we can say this.chatService.get messages, and then we're listening there to our messages event from our backend. And we also want to have something to create like a chat message. So this is like our form control. And this has like a new form control, which is initiated with null, and also gets the validator that it's required, so that we can later then check our form or reactive form from Angular. And then we also want to implement some stuff. So we have at the moment the on init interface when we want to have the on changes. So if we input changes, so if we open another chat room, then we want to be notified and change or do something. We have like on destroy, so that when we click another room, then we want to like emit like event where we leave the room, and so then we have to implement these. So we say ng on changes, and then we can have like changes, simple changes from Angular. And here we can say if this .chatroom is having like value, then we can say we want to join the room. So we can say this.chatService.join room, and then we specify the room, so our chat room that we are currently in. Then we have to do something on destroy. And then this is like our chat service dot leave room, and we want to leave our chat room. And also we want to be able like to send a new message, and this is just like simple form validation. So we want to call our chat service dot, let's see, we want to send a message. This wants a message from us, so we can say we give him like a message. So we have like a text, and this is our this this.chat message.value. So this is like from our form control where we access like the value. And then we also need like a room for our message. And this is at the moment our chat room where we are. And then the user should get added from our backend directly. So then we can say this.chat message.reset so that then the user is able to add like another chat message to the service. Then in our chat room component, we have to do some stuff. So first we can maybe check when we add this to our dashboard component if everything is displayed. So we can here now simply say, here we want to display the app.chatroom via a selector. So you can see this is app-chat-room, and this is the selector here that we have to access this. So in our chat room, what we first want to have is like a div. And here we want to check if we have like a room. So we can say ng if. And then we can say if we have like our chat room, then it's okay. Else we want to display our no chat room. Maybe we can also add selected. And so we can at the bottom add one ng template for this, and we can say no chat room selected, and we can say met error no chat room selected. Let's see if this is working. So when we reload, we now get no chat room selected, and if we select the chat room, then we have to add like some stuff so that it works. So because we have to inject this. So right now this is always like null, but we can give him like a chat room. So here we have like our input, the chat room, and this should be our selected room. So because you remember, we have here our selected room with this initial null, and then when the user selects a room from the rooms list, then we call the onSelect room, and then we set our selected room to the current value. So then we can give this here as an input to our chat room component. So now when we click here, then this is gone, and now we have to display something when we have like a valid chat room. So we can make a div here and give it like, this is like our heading, so we can give it maybe like a height of 125 pixels. And then we can make a span. And then we want to display like our heading and maybe also the date when the chat room was created and some stuff. So we want to display this like maybe next to each other, so we can give it some style. So we say display flex, and we can use the flex direction as a row. And since we want to also use icons, we can align items center, and we can, when we use justify content space between, display something on the left and on the right so that it gets easier to read. So here we can say, for example, the h2 tag, and then we display our chat room dot name here. So this is like the first, and then we have like a second span element where we could display like the date. So we could say met icon, and then we could, this is our event icon, so that we have like a nice icon for this. And we have here like a p element that is just our chat room dot updated at, so when it was last updated, for example. And then we can use the date pipe to display it nicer. So let's have a look how it looks. So you see now here this, but we want to display like our icon and this in one line or in one row. So we can also add some style here to this span element. So we also want to use display flex direction row, and we want to align the items to center. And then we can also give them here a little bit space, so we can say margin to left, let's say 10 pixels, and then this should look a bit nicer. So you see it now, it's one line, we have our icon, we have it displayed, seems good. And then we can also like add the description to our chat room. So we have here like another span element. We could use like a vh3 tag for this. We can also make it like color. We can say, for example, gray. And then we can simply display here our chat room dot description. So yeah, so my PC is a little bit slow today. And then we could also display like all the users that we are currently having in this chat room. So we could make here like an ng4. And then we could say let user of chat room dot users. And then we could display here like the username of each user. Now let's see if this is working. So you see here we have Walter and Thomas at the moment in this chat room. So we can add like a comma, and then we also have to fix this later, that we have for the last user not also a comma behind. So this is something that we need to check here later, but at the moment it shouldn't bother us, I think. So now we have like our heading, like our title and stuff. So now we want to display like our messages. So we have like another div that we can also give a style for background color, that we can also maybe say light gray, and we can also make it also a little bit lighter so that it's easier to look at. We have to specify like a height, and we can also say overflow overflow to -y to scroll, so that we will be able to scroll through all our messages. So now you can see we have here this. And now let's see, why is it displayed when we have no chat room selected? It's outside the div. Here, so let's move this, of course, here inside our div. So beneath this here. So this is like here we have our header. Then we have here like our messages. And then we also want to later have here like adding a message. So, and here we can simply make like a span element again, and then we can loop over it and say let message of our messages that we get from our message service. And then we can simply use the async pipe to subscribe it, and then we access our items. And then we could say here message.text to see if we get all our messages from our room. So if I join a room now, you see I'm getting all the messages above each other. So this is what we have to fix. And you see we are also having here our users and also this. So we need to add like some CSS. So we could say we want to display our h3 padding to top 0 pixels. And padding to top -10, and we want to have a margin of 0. And then this seems here good. So you see this is like all the messages because I just was making very short messages, so we can like remove this from here. And then we can create like another component that is just our chat message component, which will just have one input like the chat message. So now we create like the chat message component. Here we will just have our input for the chat message. So we can say add input, let's say chat or message, chat mess, or this is like I think message interface. We import the input, and then we can edit our HTML. So here we can simply say, for example, we have our p element. We can make it em, and here we can use our binding for our message.user.username. So we want to display like the username first. Then we want to make like a BR, so like a line break. And then we want to display like the message.text. And then we can add like some CSS to our P. So we can, for example, set the font size to medium. Our background color could also be like a light gray. Then we can make a padding of 5 pixels. We can make a width of fitting the content. The border radius could be set to 5 pixels. And we could add like a margin of 7 pixels. And then we can use this chat message component in our chat room. So then in our ng4 and our span, so where we loop over it, we can simply say we want to have our app.chat message. And here we have like the message. And this is simply the message that we loop over of messages. And then we can see if everything compiles here. And then we can reload. And now we see we have here our messages. So, but it's not finding the user. I think I missed the bracket. Here, I missed the bracket. So let's try again. And now we see we have like all the messages in this room, all from me at the moment. And I can scroll through them. And later in one of the next videos, we also want to add pagination here. So for example, if I scroll more to the top, then we load the older data. If I emit like a new message, then I want to add it here. So let's begin with adding like a new message to our chat room. So we have here then our add message stuff. And herefore we need like a new div that we can give like a style position absolute, because we want to have it always displayed at the bottom. So we give him like a bottom 0. Then we also want to have it like display flex with a flex direction row and an align items center, so that we can then add like our form field for this, where we made like here our very simple form control, so just for the chat message, which will be just like a text, and also like an icon and a button to send. So we need here our met form field, where we then can add our message. So we can make it like a little bit brighter. So we can say, for example, the width should be 350 pixels. And then we have a simple input. And here we also want to use the Angular material input. And we can bind it to a form control name. And this is of course our chat message. And we can set the type of this input to text. What is it? Is it just form control? Yes. And so then we would have like our form. So let's have a look how it looks. So you see now we have here our basic input where we can then type something, and now we want to send it. So we could say that we have here our button, which is of course a met button. We can say this should be disabled if our chat message is not valid. So we can say this, so our chat message is not valid, so we negate it. And we can say on click, we want to execute our send message that we have in our component here. So you see we have here already made our send message where we then emit like a message event. We go to our chat service with our message. This is our chat message in our chat room where we're currently in. And then this will send this like to our backend. And so we also can make like here a span element. And then we could display here like the send icon. So we can also say display flex. We have a flex direction row, and we have like align items center. And we can also, in one of the next videos, we will do like a refactoring and move all the CSS stuff into classes. And then we can use our met icon. Can give it like a style, margin left, and set it to 20 pixels. And we can then use the send icon. So we just have to name it here. And then we can give this also like a short name where we say also style, margin left 10 pixels. So it's not like cluttering to the icon. And then we can simply say this is like send. And now let's have a quick look. So if I now open my room, I can scroll through the last messages. I can, for example, say send test. Then this button gets valid and I can click it. So now I click it, it gets reset the form. And now when I reload, we can see that the last message is not here. So let's see why not. Yeah, so let's see where it is stuck. So one of the things that I can think of is that in our service, we have here our messages. We get our messages, where are we? When we join the room. And we specify here like the first 10 items. Maybe we are now more. And then we have to like resort it. So let's say we want to have still 10. And we now filter like descending. We have an error. No, that's coming. Now you see we have here our send test message. Let's say another message and send, and then we reload the page. And then we go in the room, and then you see we have here now added another message to this room. And this room here is still having no messages. This here is just having hi. Let's add something to room ID 9. Test only room 9. We send it. Then we have to do F5 and see when it's added to room 9 and the other room's not. So this seems to work fine. Then, like in the next videos, we have to make sure that we like turn around like here the messages so that the latest message is at the bottom, and that we also can don't have to do F5, but we emit this message to every user. So since we have here our scroll bar, we can also add this to this here. So let's go to our front end and to our components, and we have our dashboard component. We have here our style, so let's just copy and paste this to our chat room. And for I think Firefox, we also have to add this here to our HTML. So we have here our messages, and then we add it like this, and then we should be safe for all the browsers, and then we have to refactor this later so that we have used all classes. Let's try messages. Message. Now we have it also here. Yeah, and so like I think now we have like all the stuff that we wanted to do in this video here. And let's have a quick look at our story. So we have like created our new chat room component. We have like a new component for our chat message. Or for the messages that we want to use. We can scroll through the rooms and the messages, and we have made some smaller design improvements, and we also modified our message API service so that we filter by the room ID and we add the user to the message. And we also have to turn this here around. Then next video we have to emit like an event that we directly get displayed like a new message when we are online in this room. And then we are like getting closer and closer to the end, and we also have to do some refactoring of the code of CSS classes and so on. But I think we are on a good way so far. Also, this video was like a bit confusing sometimes, but let's go. So then we can commit everything. So we can say git add upper A, git commit, and now we are in video number 15, and we can say edit chat room.component and message or chat message.component and made rooms and messages scrollable, and also find refactor getting messages for a room and add the user relation to it. And then we can git push it. Hi, so right after the video I realized that the leave room is nearly never called, because when we change the room when the component is not destroyed. So what I did was, in the env changes, I always call first leave the room, and then we can access the changes, the simple changes here. We can get the chat room property and we get the previous values, so before. So when we, for example, log this here out, then this should always have the previous value, and then we should always run into it. So when we now log it out, and you see we have the changes, and then we get like the previous value and log it here out. Then we can see when we go to the console here. So when we are in the first chat room, and this is null. And we go to the second chat room here with ID 12, and before we are here in ID 13, then you see we log out here 13. So then we disconnect here from the leave room, and to make this clear that we are running into it, I console logged here in the leave room, and you see when we leave, we join, we leave, we join. If I let it reload, and you can see it here now again, that there is nothing at the moment. Then if I go here, we are like joining, leaving, and joining. And so when we are leaving the previous room correctly. So we can now remove like the console logs here in our API backend. And we have here our chat room, where we always, when we change something, we first call the chat service.leave. And we can also make this into an if, or we can just let it be, so because null is not bad. And then if there's like the chat room, then we join a room. So first we always leave, so if anything changes here, and then we join another room. So then we can also commit this stuff here. And then we can say, for example, we are here also in video 15. Or let's say implement leave room on changes. And then we can push it also.